What's going on, partners? Today I'm going to introduce you to the Probation Oversight Commission, a commission that was set up to reform the juvenile justice system. However, this commission is composed of a bunch of woke, educated people with masters and doctorates that have no idea how to run a detention facility. And we're going to try to expose that in these videos here. So before we get started, the probation department has been dealing with a lot of issues. Uh, they are understaffed, they are underfunded, and their facilities are falling apart. Okay. So right now we're only going to listen to a quick video on them explaining what they have done to just fix the staffing issue.
We continue to have resignations on an almost weekly basis, which is part of the problem, right? So we have since in about the last calendar year, we've lost between 130 and 140 staff to attrition. So that's retirements, resignations, promotions. We've only hired 30, and so just that number alone is the reason that we're really pushing for these conditional offers to be made and start working people through the academy. And it's also the reason why we're asking for the hiring freeze to be lifted.
Okay, Mr. Adam here is saying that 140 people are leaving a year and they've only hired 30. That is ridiculous. Now, the Oversight Commission is here to oversee the probation department, but the hiring and the funding has nothing to do with the probation department. That's going to be administered by the county board of supervisors and how much money they're going to get and if they're going to lift the hiring freeze. The probation department themselves, they don't put the hiring freeze. The hiring freeze is placed on them through the county. So they're talking about an issue that is completely out of their hands. Now, just as a reminder, the juvenile justice system has been trying to get reformed for over 20 years. Let me remind you that it used to be called the California Youth Authority and it operated from the 40s to the early 2000s. These commissions place all the blame on the probation officers. Now, there are going to be some bad apples in every line of work, in every profession. And there are going to be some people that are going to bring in contraband. But that person individually should be held to a high standard and should be made responsible. People from probation that's supposed to be going out and knocking on felons' doors and making sure that they're abiding by their court ordered sentence are not doing that because they're getting pulled in. This is creating a safety issue, a public safety issue, because those probation officers should be out there checking on felons and they can't because now they're being called back into a detention camp or a detention hall to take care of these minors. And these minors are not scholars. This commission refuses to call them criminals or inmates because they're minors, even though there was a reform that made it where if you were a criminal, if you were an adult, 24 years old, you could still go to the probation department. So now you're getting these 24-year-old men and you're putting them in with these kids that are 17, 16 years old. These people were already in prison. These commissions fail to educate the public on the gang violence that's happening in there and how the gang and prison politics controls the inside of juvenile hall. What are we going to do with the kids? Where are we going to put them? Some of the parents don't want them. This is an older video that I'm going to play just so you can get an idea of the type of kids that they have and what the parents are dealing with, and that even the parents don't want to keep their kids at their house.
Do you want to tell the court what happened? Um, Joshua went after his sister with a pair of scissors. I didn't see it. She came out of the bathroom screaming, and I could see a red mark on her forehead. So when I went into the bathroom, I asked him about it. He said it was an accident, and I told him to go to his room, and he didn't want to. So I grabbed him by the wrist and tried to take him into his room. He wouldn't go with me, so I grabbed him around his shoulder, like up here, to take him in his room. He didn't want to. He finally went in his room. He threw stuff at me, and then he walked out of his room. When I walked out, followed me, and then he punched me in the face with the fist. He split my lip and made my head go back against the wall. And then he hit me again. And then I tried to get him back in his room, and he didn't want to go, so I told him he had to leave the house if he wasn't going in his room, and then he wanted to go in his room. And then I told him no, he had to go outside, that I didn't want him in the house if he was gonna, be hitting on me or anybody else. And then he choked me, then he spit on me, and I told my daughter to call 911, and they came, and he was outside, and they took him.
This is the first time something like this has happened?
To this extent, where he punched me, yeah.
To what extent in the past?
Where he doesn't like what he's told to do, to go into his room or to do whatever, and Joshua gets angry and throws things. He's hit his stepdad before. I found out after this all happened, he's punched his sister before. She didn't want to tell me because she didn't want him to get in trouble, but then after they took him away, she told me.
How old is she?
She's 14.
So she's a year older than Joshua.
Yes.
Is Joshua in school?
Yes.
What school does he attend?
Harrison.
And what grade is he in?
7th.
And how well does he perform in school?
Not good.
Does he get in trouble in school too?
Yeah, because he has a attitude or discipline problem. He's asked to do something and he doesn't like it, so he gets disrespectful with the teachers. They send him down to the office, and a few times he got disrespectful with the principal. He had to attend summer school this year. He was in summer school for 2 days, and they kicked him out for his attitude and disrespect.
Is he in special ed?
No, he doesn't need to be. He's smart. He's capable of doing all the work. He just has a problem with discipline and listening to authority.
Are you afraid of Joshua?
Yes.
Do you want him to come back into your home?
No.
So at this time you don't want to take him home with you?
No, I don't know what else to do with him.
You think this kid is going to go into a detention hall and not be disrespectful and not be assaulted to police officers in there? You got to be kidding me. They remove OC from probation officers, so all they have now is their hands. And when they use their hands to restrain these little criminals, it's the end of the world. It's abuse. Now, like I said, there are going to be officers that might take it overboard. That officer should be held accountable. He should be held at a higher standard than anywhere else because he's a law enforcement officer. With that being said, law enforcement officers, the hiring criteria should be more stringent. We cannot hire 21-year-olds with a high school diploma. We need to hire, in my opinion, 25-year-olds with some type of degree, some type of education, some type of military experience. Here is Scott Budnick. He is actually with the BSEC, which I introduced on the previous video, and he's going to explain what he saw and the type of probation officers that are in the halls and his concerns.
I am really nervous, and Chief knows I'm in the juvenile hall every weekend. Really, really nervous about the amount of staff that are not showing up to work ever, and the amount of staff that are calling out routinely. I was just in a unit with about 18 young men with one staff member, one very small staff member there. And it was clear that if something were to happen, then this staff member also did not have the main skill needed to work with this population, which is communication. And seems like half the staff, I mean, half, I don't know if that's a conservative or generous number, are simply not showing up for work. In any other job, you'd be fired.
Go on the probation website and look at their officers. The majority of them do not look like they're in shape to be officers, first of all. But I don't agree with everything that Scott has to say. I disagree with a lot of the things that he has to say. And right now he's just blaming the officers. Well, the officers are quitting. And the officers that are not showing up for work, they're dealing with an injury. They're dealing with post-traumatic stress. And guess what? It's the worker comp side of the house that it's not doing its due diligence to get these officers cleared or get these officers retired medically. So the staff issue is concerning because this is what could happen inside a hall.
From a juvenile detention center in Ohio. Surveillance video some of it sped up, showing the moment a dozen youth inmates took over a facility, destroying security cameras and even threatening staff members with makeshift weapons. This uprising just the latest in a string of violent incidents at that facility. Jesse Kirsch with the video and the new details.
Tonight, our first look at dramatic video from inside an Ohio correctional facility, showing the chaotic moments teenage inmates overtook the facility.
The kids are running the place. Our hands are tied.
Officials say last October, 12 youth inmates stole keys from a staff member and broke out of their rooms at the Indian River Juvenile Correctional Facility. The newly released surveillance footage capturing the chaos on camera. Teens smashing computers, trashing rooms, and even destroying security cameras.
Video going viral tonight. This video from inside the troubled Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall in Downey. It shows multiple juveniles targeting and fighting with another detainee, all while a number of LA County probation officers just look on. That video played in an LA courtroom yesterday and first obtained by the LA Times.
You can see that they are not properly trained. Training that probation gets is very limited. That has to do with the funding. That has to do with the amount of money that is given to them. That has to do with the own guidelines that the BSCC sets forth. They set forth the training. They're not getting the proper training. You know what the BSCC wants to train for? To call them they, them, whatever they want. I could just tell that the training and the mentality that these guys have is not up to par. And it has to do with experience, age, training, discipline, and that's the kind of patent that they should be looking for. But they're just hiring right off the picket line, right off of a McDonald's. They're hiring from In and Out. They're hiring from Starbucks. These are the people that are coming into law enforcement. And it's sad. And this is the type of people that the boards and the commissions want in these facilities. I have even heard it from my own leadership. If you have a pole, you can walk logs. And that is sad because to be a correctional officer, you need more than a pulse. You need guts, you need courage, you need intelligence. And with that, that's all I got. Remember to hold the line and let's hold them accountable.